Good morning from the Sunrise Diner, Roselle Park, TGIF. We're in New Jersey. I'm Jim Rosenfield along with Mark Bonanno today, joining me here at the table.
How you doing?
Allison from our undisclosed location at the Global Home Headquarters. How are you doing this morning, Allison?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day here, so you'll see some of the sun peeking in through my global home quarters. Mark, great to meet you. Great to have you here. I look forward to hearing all about who you are and the reporting that you've been doing and everything. I know only bits and pieces at the moment.
Give us your runs, hits, and errors, Mark.
Well, what we've been seeing here on the Jersey Shore, well-known vacation destination here in New Jersey.
Absolutely.
The extreme weather we're seeing at the shore, terrible riptides, incredibly high waves, to the point where Governor Murphy has reiterated what Chris Christie said years ago during Hurricane Sandy. Get the hell off the beach. Do
Right.
not go into water.
And did you know Allison is a Jersey Shore gal? I mean, it goes way back. That's where she grew up. Yep. We're
Great.
glad to see the sun is out where you are this morning, though, Allison, and here too in Roselle Park.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll get an update on what Erin has done because just because the weather looks good, as we've learned, Jim, over the past few days from our phenomenal lifeguards along the Jersey Shore, it doesn't mean that the water is safe. In fact, it leaves, once a hurricane passes, it leaves a really upset sea floor and a dangerous one.
Yeah, we're going to check in with that expert coming up. We want to start, though, with some breaking news. You hear about this overnight, Allison. Many of you on the East Coast were probably sleeping. The parole board out in California, Eric Menendez, no parole for the 1989 murder of his parents.
Right. Infamous case where
Yeah.
him and his brother Lyle, about 30 years ago, were murdered their parents. Now they're hoping there's time for them to finally go free.
Yeah, they were resentenced, and last night the parole board decided that Menendez is going to stay in prison in San Diego. Lyle has his turn up today. It was interesting. They said they weren't that impressed with his efforts to rehabilitate fellow prisoners and noted that he had some contraband
Right.
in prison, including a cell phone that's not allowed. So,
Exactly.
they didn't find he was a model prisoner. So he'll continue, they say, to pose an unreasonable risk to public safety in making that decision. So
But I mean, Jim, I thought
added-
I thought that what they were doing was revisiting the actual motivation for the crime, and that there was now new sympathy for things that had not been disclosed about the relationship, perhaps the alleged relationship between the father, the abusive relationship between the father and the boys, and that's why they were getting a second look. So I'm surprised by this outcome.
Well, and also there's all this renewed attention because of the documentary. I don't know if you watched it, and the scripted series, which was extremely popular, and then new information, as you mentioned, that had come out from some others who corroborated this alleged sexual abuse, but not the outcome, obviously, that Eric was hoping for at this point.
Yeah, and we don't know yet about his
To do with
brother.
Lyle. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
All right. The other big story we want to talk about today. How would you like to come home to this? The power of Hurricane Erin just causing havoc up and down the East Coast. All week, our Jay Vitale, our local expert who heads up the North Island Lifeguards, has been letting us know what it's been looking like. He's giving us an up-close view of the Jersey Shore. He's been out there. Obviously, this is a live shot, I believe, and I'm not sure the exact location we're looking at right now, if folks can let me know. But Erin, the good news here is finally moving away, but as Allison was mentioning, doesn't mean it's safe to go in the water. We have team coverage for everybody here this morning.
Right. Meteorologist Nick Pittman is tracking Erin. But let's start with you, Jay. I hope you have some time off soon. You look at those waves. You certainly deserve it.
And thanks for having me back this morning, folks. The shot that we were just looking at was actually from Bayhead, about a mile south of where I'm standing right now, and that was during the worst of the swell we were expecting to see last night, around 7 p.m. So you really get an idea of the force and the power behind the waves coming in. And when you're looking behind me now, I'm really, really excited to share this with you guys. This is a really special morning. This is one of my favorite moments of being up here. Not a lot of people are going to get to see this sort of a shot. It's just a beautiful sunrise, and seeing the waves come in compared to what you were looking at from last night about 12 hours ago, you can see a stark difference. What we were facing last night with those nearly 30-mile-an-hour winds was what we referred to as a lot of wind swell and wind chop. So those distant winds coming in from Erin are actually bringing a lot more force than just the water movement coming in. So it's more turbulent. The waves get a lot bigger and significantly more dangerous. Now, if I step aside a little bit, you get a little bit of a taste of the fact everything's cleaned up really nicely. So I know Erin over the last few days been asking me about the surfers. Today's going to be the day that you're going to see heads in the water. Everything's a lot more organized. The waves are significantly cleaner. So depending on where you are, certain spots are going to have much better access to waves. That doesn't make the ocean safe just yet. We're at about dead high right now. And you can see we've got anywhere from, depending on the area, 20 to 30 yards of beach space. Moving into the afternoon, dead low tide is going to be around 115. So later on today, we should have a lot more room to actually get some people up here safely. So before you head out to the beach, just be aware, depending on what access looks like while things are cleaning up, getting significantly safer, access, movement along the water might still be restricted, but we're really excited to get back up here, start doing some cleanup work, and get some people back out here. Because it looks like we're in for a really nice weekend.
Jay, that's beautiful. I'm so glad that you showed us that. The Jersey sunrise is really spectacular. But am I right that just because things look safe on the surface to the naked eye, that they might not be?
You're 100% right. Like we talked about a couple days ago, now that Erin's had a chance to throw all that water at us and create this massive uprush, you could see in all the videos we've shown, the water's rushing right up to the dune. So as that channels back out, it's going to cut channels into the sandbars. And in the subsequent days after the storm, those deep channels in the sandbar are going to allow for really strong rip currents. And it's going to take several tide cycles for those to fill in. So going through the weekend, right now, what you're looking at behind me is anywhere from 6 to 8 foot by estimate. And to reference that energy measurement we used yesterday, on normal conditions, maybe we're looking at 50 to 100 kilojoules. The worst of this was upwards of 3,000. Right now, we're still in that 1,500 to 2,000 range. So there's still a lot of power moving through. This well is going to sit down significantly as Erin makes that hard right turn and heads away from us. But even though the waves are going to drop down to maybe 3-4 foot and then subsequently lower than that, the rip currents we're dealing with are still going to be much larger, much stronger, and pull you much further out into the ocean than would be on a normal day of waves with that kind of power. So when you do get up to the beach this weekend, it might be a little chilly, but it's going to be beautiful with loads of sunshine. Be really cautious and be really aware of where lifeguards are directing you. As soon as these waves calm down, we're going to be able to spot those rip currents a lot easier. So it's going to be easier for us to keep people safe and direct them to safe places on the beach.
Always important to remind people what to do if you get caught in one of those rip currents, Jay.
Yes. And the tried and true knowledge, especially if you're a capable swimmer, is if you feel yourself getting pulled further from shore or you're trying to re-enter and you feel like you're on a treadmill, you're just not making any progress, let the rip take you. Swim parallel to shore until you're out of the turbulent water. Don't try to swim against it. Like I said, you're going to be a hamster on a wheel, especially with the sort of forces that we're seeing in front of us today and through some of the weekend. You'll only tire yourself out if you're not a strong swimmer or if you feel yourself getting fatigued. Trying to spread out your extremities, floating on your back is going to keep you buoyant significantly longer, make you a safer target for us to get to.
All right,
Such great
flip and
advice,
do that
guys.
starfish move, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I taught that to my kids after Jay told us that. I demonstrated it to the kids about what they should do because it is different than the advice that we've heard for years.
All right, let's check actually on the path right now where Erin is, so what she's doing. Let's go to meteorologist Nick Pittman. Nick, what's the latest?
All right, good morning, guys. Yesterday, for a brief moment in time, I was in Atlantic City watching the breakers. The wind was absolutely incredible. We had some gusts to 50, 55 miles an hour. But the good news is things gradually calm down. It's going to be a much nicer day across the East Coast. But as Jay said, stay out of the water because there's a lot of momentum there. Erin is currently a Category 1. It's transitioning over to an extratropical cyclone, 90-mile-an-hour winds, and this is going to be rocketing across the North Atlantic. So if you're hopping on a plane heading over to Europe, there's going to be a lot of turbulence as you get closer to the Arctic Circle. So definitely be prepared for that. But it is done. It is gone. It is out of our hair. But because of the laws of physics, that energy is being translated down into the ocean. And we still have some 40-foot waves out there about 500 miles off to the east. And this is kind of radiating from the center. And we're still going to be dealing with some breakers 5 to 9 feet. We're better over the weekend. Now, there's been a lot of hype. The fear monger is out in full effect, of course, with what's behind Erin. Everybody shares these model maps and, tries to scare the bejesus out of you. But that's not going to be the case. This guy becomes Fernan. This is going to be curving into the Atlantic Ocean. The one behind that could go a little farther south towards the Caribbean, but we are about 10 days out from any impact to land. So we will continue to watch that very closely. If you're in New Jersey, temperatures starting off in the 60s. So a taste of fall with us early on, and you'll feel that next week big time. I'm sure we'll talk more about that, guys.
All right, Nick, glad to know those other two storms are looking like they're not a threat to us at this point, but it's still early in the season, right, Allison?
Yes, and I appreciate Nick saying that it is starting to feel autumnal. Me no likey. I'm not
I don't
ready.
either.
I am not ready for summer to be over. I want those warm weather to come back. I don't like what Erin did with thrusting us into fall.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I could stick with summer all year long. Maybe not the high 90s or anything like that, but yeah, that first taste of fall always makes me feel, I don't know, a little sad.
A little melancholy.
Yeah, a little melancholy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So what else is going on, Mark?
Well, it was promoted as a way for President Trump to support law enforcement as part of his policy to take over law enforcement in the nation's capital. President Trump would be on patrol with the National Guard in D.C. last night.
Mm-hmm, we were hearing that, right? But what happened?
Well, instead, he had a pizza party with federal and local law enforcement before they hit the streets. This was posted on X by the special assistant to the president and communications advisor, Margot Martin. Tara, please tell us more.
But don't forget the hamburgers. They had that too. Who does not like free food, right? Well, it didn't happen, and probably didn't happen because security and logistics. Can you imagine the logistics to put President Trump on a D.C. ride along with police? So it didn't happen. It was not on the public schedule, so it may not have been authorized or even planned. And also, there is also the chance he said this to Todd Starn, a conservative talk show radio host, just to get the media attention, because that's pretty much all anyone talked about all day. Instead, what he did was he made that 44-minute stop at a U.S. Park Police facility in D.C., where he addressed 300 National Guard troops and federal law enforcement. He praised the crackdown, talked about beautifying D.C., that big, beautiful bill, and building a ballroom at the White House. A lot of folks, guys, are saying this is more like a campaign-style event.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the ballroom has to do with the crackdown on crime. And by the way, Tara, do you have any word on how many arrests have actually been made during this crackdown the last couple of weeks?
I actually do have some numbers for you. Since the intervention started on August 7th, and they've had help with agencies like the FBI, ICE, and the U.S. Marshals, 631 arrests at last check, including 251 people who are in the U.S. illegally. Also, 86 illegal guns have been taken, 1 missing child recovered, and a bunch of homeless encampments now cleared. And by the way, D.C. homicides have been not happening since August 13th, we understand. And so it's making a difference, but a lot of folks sure don't like that this is going on.
Now, we were just joking about the pizza, but a critical question, do people feel safer when it comes to crime in D.C.? There seems to be maybe more or less of a political divide. Speak about that, about for those people who live and work in the nation's capital.
You know, honestly, I think it depends who you're asking. If you're in a crime-ridden neighborhood, you're going to possibly feel one way. If you're in a nicer neighborhood, you may feel totally different. But there is a poll out this morning from the Washington Post, and it interviewed 604 D.C. residents, and 80% say they disapprove of the federal takeover. 65% think it will not improve safety, and 78% say they still feel safe in their neighborhoods. But what we don't know is who was polled, how the question was asked, because certainly a lot of people here in D.C. do feel that crime is definitely an issue.
And Tara, just so I understand, the numbers that you gave us, that is obviously very heartening if there hasn't been a murder for the past week. I mean, it's incredible that that's our standard. But can you just help us, give us some perspective of what it has been before the National Guard? In other words, one of the things that I had read was that the National Guard has seized a bunch of illegal guns off the streets. Everybody's comforted by that. But that it was just a handful more than what they had seized before the cops had seized before the National Guard showed up. So what's the context in terms of how much they really are making a dent?
Well, if you look at the numbers, one of the criticisms by the D.C. officials is that, before the feds moved in, that crime in D.C. was at a 30-year low and 28% lower than last year. So 28% lower. Yes, 28% lower than last year. So, in the grand scheme of things, they're saying that things weren't bad before, that things were already improving. So while they are, seizing some guns and picking up children who are missing at least one and making these arrests, there's the criticism also that a lot of these arrests are more immigration based and not homicides, not crime, not, the things we would think are afraid of on DC streets. It's more based on the migrant population that's moved in.
Are you getting a sense, Tara, of the impact this is having on local businesses, whether it's positive or negative? We've been hearing some information that restaurants are hurting, that people are not going to restaurants to the degree they were before the National Guard showed up. The president said in the Oval Office a few days ago during the Zelensky meeting that restaurant business has never been better. It's a big difference.
Again, I believe that it's what neighborhood you're in. Again, if you're in a crime-ridden neighborhood, there are business owners who feel better with the police presence. If you're in somewhere where there's not a lot of crime, perhaps having the police presence is going to scare off some customers. So I think it's all where you're coming from. But certainly, in some neighborhoods, it is going to scare off the crime for sure. But again, a lot of business owners have complained. There was a point where write-ups all over the place in the news that people were getting robbed, the customers weren't coming before. So again, depends on your perspective, maybe what your business is. So I think depending where you go in DC, you're going to get some different answers.
Yeah, guys, I don't know about you and you, Tara, but I've done those ride-alongs with the cops. We all, as reporters, I'm sure, have at one time or another, and you do see action. I mean, I've been with a cop where there was a bank robbery in progress. I've been with the cops where they've pulled over people who were speeding, and it is nerve-wracking. I mean, they put me in, a bulletproof vest. I mean, some of this might be for TV purposes, but then things do happen. So the idea that President Trump was going to go out with them, it would have had to have been such an orchestrated, locked down, basically photo op that it's hard to imagine how that would have worked. And by the way, I mean, Jim and Mark, I think that the cops would appreciate pizza more than having to make sure the president stays alive,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That would have been a logistical nightmare. Secret Service, I mean, they must have just been going, please, no, we can't do this.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tara, thanks so much for joining us from
You're
DC.
welcome.
As always, Connecting America, just getting started on this Friday morning as we continue to sip our coffee here. Want to talk about what happened yesterday to our south in the Philly area. Just a horrific start to the school year at Villanova University. Students and parents there for orientation, running for their lives. And it was all because of a terrible hoax that we'll tell you about when we come right back. Can you imagine? You get there with your kids.
Right. You're just
excited for
offloading.
them.
Some hoaxes are crueler than others. Okay. What's the password for the Wi-Fi? tell you, Staten Island. Just making a joke. Sat with her at the diner once in Summit and told her like crazy stories from growing up on Staten Island that I don't think I will share with a national audience right now.
I don't know, Matt, if this is just my IFB, but during certain parts of remotes, my audio just drops out and then it comes right back. Did you have that happen to you?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in her global home headquarters. There is no action in your kitchen yet this morning, Allison. I don't know if you're
Well,
whipping up eggs or anything, or you're
oh
just
yeah,
taking
yeah,
the
yeah.
day off.
Well, my daughter, you might have seen, made a cameo already. She comes down early, gets her coffee, begins, her prepping for her day. She has a very cool internship, so she gets up early. She's quite industrious in the morning, so you might have seen her wandering around
Does she
in the
care that
back.
you got a camera there and that you're, talking to America?
Strangely, she didn't even mention it. I think she's so in her own kind of productive world that she didn't mention that not only are there cameras and lights here, there are two people also here who are not normally here. I have an incredible helper, Ainsley, today learning the ropes. I have Juan Miguel, our tech guru, and my daughter didn't seem to feel that that was strange, that two virtual strangers are in our kitchen this morning. So that tells you a little something about what goes on around here. So anyway, but I'm taking orders. I mean, what do you guys want me to cook up this morning?
I'd like some pancakes this morning, Allison.
How about
Can
a
you whip those
Western
up for us?
omelet? Western
Okay.
omelet.
And a
please.
Western omelet.
Okay.
Gotta have my
All right,
eggs.
guys. I see. I thought you were going to go easy and do like, little eggs over easy, but no. Okay. I'll begin the pancake production. I'll get the eggs out here. I'll be
Notice the
getting all
fridge
the
mark.
ingredients out, and
Nice.
over the course of the day, of the morning, I will begin cooking up whatever you guys want. What about what you guys are having in the diner? What
So
are you
far,
guys serving up?
yeah, so far it's just coffee.
Yeah.
We're waiting for our regulars to come in and ask what we have a taste for. It hasn't happened yet.
Right. Little hash and eggs would do just fine.
Yeah,
right
I could
now.
use some
Yes.
over easies. And Mark, by the way, you wear several hats. This is impressive, Allison, because you cover stories for the New York Times when you're not doing other things, podcasts.
Correct.
Tell us about where you're from, what you've been up to, and how many different hats you actually wear.
Well, the first hat when I was born is I am from Staten Island, New York, not far away from here in New Jersey, in the diner where I now live. And being in New Jersey, it's an incredibly unique news environment. I have a podcast with my colleague Brian Donahue called The Jersey Angle, and you could argue that any national story has a Jersey angle. And that can be very helpful in terms of being a contributing writer for the New York Times. A lot of times I cover things in New Jersey and the outer boroughs, such as Staten Island. I also host a local regional TV show called New Jersey Now, where we talk about aspects of what's happening in the community. And of course, New Jersey politics, which unfortunately can often be like covering crime.
I appreciate, Mark, that you're saying that New Jersey is basically the epicenter of the universe. I agree. I'm a Jersey girl. I do think all roads go through New Jersey, but mostly I think,
Absolutely.
and the reason that I love the Sunrise Diner where you guys are now is that it is a crossroads of really colorful characters with different opinions, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different ethnicities, different, certainly, political spectrum. And so
Always.
it's just a wonderful place to hear people chatting over the breakfast table. So I really am glad that we're there.
Any thoughts, both of you, on the biggest misconception about New Jersey or bad rap that it gets?
This is categorically untrue. New Jersey is a wonderful place. It is, in many ways, the first point of the American dream for so many people, right? So
I
much
agree with
inspiration, so much
you.
creativity, business, everything, all sorts of energy and inspiration come out of this state. It's almost mind-boggling.
I agree with you, Mark. And in fact, the funniest, coolest people I've ever met are from New Jersey. That is a truism. However, there are some stinky towns. And I do think that New Jersey gets a bad rap because when you drive the turnpike past Newark and past some of the chemical refineries, it does stink. And you have to
True,
get past that to get to the beautiful Jersey Shore.
but I would challenge those people not only go down the Jersey Shore, but get off the beaten track a little bit. Go see Princeton University, one of the
Oh, yeah.
best universities in
Beautiful.
the world. Go see the Victorians at Cape May. You'll see incredible beauty.
Love Cape May. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it at the
those are
shore. I know
beautiful.
you spent a lot of time there in your childhood. All right. We want to talk about a serious issue that happened in Pennsylvania, in the Philly suburbs at Villanova yesterday. This was just awful. I know, Allison, you have college age kids. Imagine this. You're there helping your kids move in. It's the first day of orientation. And you see there on your screen that the university president confirmed reports initially of an active shooter. And then it came out that it was nothing but a, quote, cruel hoax. No one was hurt. There was no active shooter, no firearms found on the campus, and federal and state officials are now investigating. And this is a real problem. You could call this a super incident of swatting, to have law enforcement descend on a university like this at such an exciting time for the students to start their school year, and then they're all of a sudden running for their lives. Just awful.
No.
Well, it's awful on so many levels, guys, because, it's a sign of the times that people believed it. In other words, it's a cruel hoax, and it's also completely plausible that this could happen during an
Absolutely.
orientation because
Right.
we have seen active shooters at every level of schools, throughout the country. So how sickening. I mean, how sickening that somebody would do this, how sickening that this is the era that our kids are growing up in. I really feel for all of those parents and kids yesterday.
Yeah, and it also diverts, law enforcement from actual emergencies. You have all these officers descending on a college campus when there's actual crime happening elsewhere or people who need help elsewhere, and their services are diverted to nothing but a hoax. And it also raises questions about how seriously will they take the next actual emergency. You want people to follow instruction and be safe. And if you've been through a hoax, the next time this happens, God forbid it shouldn't happen another time. But it's the boy who cried wolf syndrome. And are people going to take it seriously when it actually is an emergency?
Which is why this is the cruelest of hoaxes when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like there was a time when, still journalists are often under fire, and we had a false bomb scare at one of the organizations where I worked. And I was like, do we have to leave? Do we really have to go? Like that had already happened to me. I had already become like anesthetized to the risk where I was like, do I really have to leave the building? It seemed like a big pain. And then it turned out it was a real bomb in the building, the news organization where I was working.
Wow.
But it was not, it was, didn't even have to be detonated. It was sort of faulty. But to your point, with these kids living through this time, it's very hard for them to know what is real and warrants an emergency.
Yeah. Well, we're glad no one was hurt, and
Absolutely.
we're we hope they figure out who perpetrated this hoax. But as I understand it, it's hard to track these people down because they do a good job at hiding. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We have a lot more still to come. We'll be right back talking more about Aaron and homes on the shore.
And we're back on Connecting America, looking at what's happening around the nation. We're on Hurricane Erin watch right now as the Category 2 storm continues to stir up the Atlantic Oceans. Beaches are closed up and down the coast. Lifeguards are making sure no one gets too close and swept into the sea with terrible rip currents.
Yeah, the good news is it's moving out of our area. So, the weekend's looking like it's going to be pretty nice here along the East Coast. But it's times like this, Allison, right, when you think about, is it a good idea to have a beach home? Not just here along the Jersey Shore where we are, but up and down the coast. We've got a real estate insider with us, Mark Loris, joining us to talk about beachfront property. That's a dream for so many, those beautiful views, the access to the ocean, but there's a risk involved, right, Mark?
Absolutely. So with hurricane winds and rain come damage, and it comes with lots of conversations about insurance, values of homes, and risk. And those are things that that are important to talk about, important to think about with respect to your real estate. So with respect to insurance, everybody gets homeowners insurance, and they think that they're fine, and if there's a problem, their damage will be covered. But flood insurance is excluded from your typical homeowner's policy. You have to have a separate flood policy. And FEMA sets the standards for that. And those have been on the rise significantly in places like Florida, where the values, of homes, are not just tied up or in what you're going to pay on the mortgage, but what you're going to pay in insurance. Home value.
So Mark, but Mark, what do you tell customers at this point? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to buy your dream home if it's waterfront?
You got to actually, when you're showing somebody homes, you really have to, it's not the price point per se. It's not I'm paying $1 million for this home. It's what are you paying monthly for the home, and factoring in the cost of insurance with the mortgage payments, the taxes, that becomes the question of affordability. If you want to have, a second home or your primary home be on the beach, those are the factors you have to take into account.
And our insurance companies, if you're buying a beachfront home, are insurance companies eager to give you coverage, setting aside the flood insurance, but just the homeowner's insurance?
I mean, homeowners insurance, there is still, a good market for it as far as number of carriers that will still, give you homeowner insurance. Flood insurance, you usually have to buy from the government. So the government is setting the price. The government is providing the market to buy, that flood insurance. So, that's really something you have to think about, where you have to go to them to buy it. Also, you got to think about the value of the home. Obviously, water views and being on the water can increase your value, but on the same hand, when hurricane season comes and issues like this, with respect to damage come into play, that can hurt the overall value of your home. So that's something you have to think about, as well. Storms are getting stronger. Water damage, seems like every morning we, from when the end of summer till, Halloween, we're talking about another storm and the potential damage that it could do to your home.
And so are you seeing people shy away from wanting waterfront home, or have you noticed that with customers?
I would say that it's impacted somewhat, the demand for those type of homes. I think, especially the past couple of years, it's got to be somebody that's got the stomach for, potentially having to deal with, repairing water damage. That's losing your personal possessions. It could be devastating.
All right, Mark, we noticed that you got your Peloton behind you, so we want to make sure that you have time to exercise this morning.
Get over there.
Yeah, God forbid, actually, that water would interfere with my Peloton workout. That would be a true disaster.
All right.
And hopefully
Mark Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us here on this Friday. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mark. What about you guys? I mean, do you guys like the idea of still waterfront, or is that a no-go zone for you guys now?
Look, it's always type of an aspirational desire of a lot of people to have a house on the homes. But then you look at this footage from North Carolina and you see these houses on the outer banks where they're on stilts 10 feet above the water and 10 feet into the water on the beach. You know, maybe this isn't the good idea that everybody thought about.
I aspire to mountains more than ocean, but that's just me.
Pretty
Yeah,
sensible
that's
for the years to come. Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's good. I mean, yeah, go ahead. What is the question of the day?
well, this is ties into our question of the day. We want to know, what's your dream home? Is it oceanfront or is it mountains, countryside? Maybe you want to stay in the city. You're, a city rat. You can vote by clicking on the QR code that's on your screen right there. So far, oceanfront and mountains are tied. Nobody wants to be in the city, and just a small number of you want to be in the countryside.
Up next, a different type of storm is brewing in California as Governor Newsom takes on President Trump in the race to redistrict. We'll be right back.
No problem.
He's in his barn in Mahwah, right? Yeah, exactly. People are like, what? It's worse. I can say ho hocus.
Yeah.
Allison, where are you from down the shore?
I'm from Shrewsbury, Monmouth County.
Are you from the township or the borough?
I'm from the borough.
Got it.
But well known, but I mean, well done you for knowing the diff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Shrewsbury, so I went to Red Bank Regional, and my
Okay.
beach was Seabright.
See, Seabright's the first easier job. I live in Newark. Seabright is oftentimes the easiest first place for me to go to.
Yeah,
when I go
and
down
it's
the shore.
awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Like growing up, going to Seabright every day of my life in the summer was wonderful. Now you did have to be a part of a beach club, which I was not. So I always had to like glom on and mooch off of my friends to be
Right.
invited to Surfrider or Trade Winds or whatever. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it worked. That's what we did, or we snuck in.
I remember I was covering Hurricane Sandy for NJ.com, and I was like in the Monmouth County Bureau, and the Seabright Library was in one of those parking lots facing the beach, and things were so destroyed. I was sitting in one of the reading chairs outside on the library next to a busted globe writing a story.
Oh my god!
That's how destroyed things were.
I hope somebody took a
Baines
picture
Hardware,
of that.
place was still open. I still have my hoodie from that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was nuts. I can't wait for all 50 states to be gerrymandered.
Yeah, to do their
It's gonna be
thing.
nuts. Trump's complaining. He's like, why is Massachusetts all blue? I'm like, have you been?
Yeah.
But they're going to find a way. They're going to get every single farm in the Republican suburbs of Springfield or something, and they're going to make it work. It's nuts. Well, look, New York tried to gerrymander too much. They almost put Staten Island, made it Democrat, which is actually wrong.
Yeah.
No. So we're back in Connecting America. A question for the nation. Who likes maps? Governor Newsom has just signed a California redistricting plan to counter Texas Republicans. And we have a great way to show you what's being proposed.
Want to take
I
a
look
look
forward
at
to
the map
seeing
here?
that.
Yeah.
I'm very
There we
excited
go.
about
There we
that.
go.
So there you go. The
okay.
current California map looks like this. See all the red on the inland side of the state. But look what happens when you redraw the districts. Going to the second map. So this is what happens with the new map. It'd be a sea of blue. It means 5 GOP seats could flip over to Democrat, canceling out what's happening in Texas. Voters will now get a chance to decide if they like the new map in November.
Yeah, this is what the governor out in California promised if Texas went through with the redistricting there, and they moved forward with that. So he's fighting back, and we see the impact of how you can manipulate the outcome of states' race.
Exactly.
And what about yeah, but Mark, what about New Jersey? I mean, because you're an aficionado of that, are they trying to do this redistricting and gerrymandering in other states?
Well, Governor Phil Murphy has suggested, and to some people even threatened, the idea that he's going to redistrict the map of New Jersey as well. And the balance right now in New Jersey favors Democrats. But at the same time, you can draw a map any which way, and you can make it even more blue if possible, depending on who's in control. Then again, as we'll be talking about soon, the New Jersey governor's race, if you get a Republican governor, the opposite result might be true.
Yeah, and as we know, this is nothing new in terms of redrawing maps, but it's usually done every decade in conjunction with the census that is done every decade. This is now in the middle of that period, and at the direction of President Trump, who felt that Texas needed more Republican representation since he won the state.
Right.
But Mark, tell us about. Oh, my eggs are ready. But tell us about the New Jersey governor's race, because is it a bellwether for, or being seen as that for things that are happening around the country in terms of which way it's going?
Well, because of the election cycle, every 4 years after the president is elected, the next elections, there are critical gubernatorial elections in New Jersey and Virginia, which are seen to be bellwethers of how's the administration doing, what's going to happen in the midterms. So going into the idea of talking about the new gubernatorial race, we've got guest Jim McQueenie here with us in his barn in New Jersey, master of all things political in New Jersey and beyond. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Hey, good, Mark. How you doing?
Can't complain. So a rundown of the race. We've got Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill going up against former state legislator Jack Ciattarelli, who want to be the Garden State's next governor. The later Rutgers Eagleton poll shows Sherrill with a 9-point lead over Ciattarelli, but it was in double digits a few weeks ago. And 17% of critical undecided voters remain undecided. Tell us more.
It's interesting. As you said before, with New Jersey and Virginia having the only gubernatorial races in the country, more of it's looked into than actually might be there. And the race, in this case here, in Virginia and New Jersey, is actually the Democrat in both states is leading between 7 and 9 points. But does that melt away? Well, in New Jersey, we have seen it melt away in many of these elections. And an interesting thing is, when I looked at that poll, the 9-point lead that Eagleton Institute from Rutgers had Mikey Sherrill, the Congresswoman, the Democrat, over Jack Ciattarelli, who you just said before. I thought Eagleton did a poll 2 months before, and it tested the mood of people in New Jersey. And the mood of people in New Jersey is they're not happy about the economy or their place in New Jersey right now, especially the economic thing. And that's going to be an issue that isn't shown in this 9-point poll. And it might go to the advantage of the Republican, Jack Ciattarelli. We're term limited, as you know, Mark, in New Jersey. The governor can only serve 2 consecutive terms here and has to give it up. And no Democrat has inherited a 3rd term, if you want to call it, right, the one after you're term limited, since John F. Kennedy was president. So that's a tough tide, a hurricane tide, if you will, to go against that. But in this state also, the breakdown on that independent swing vote, the moody people, the moody vote, right, they were leaders of the unhappy for the economic stuff. In this election, this is a blue state, as you also referred to, 2.5 million registered Democrats and about 1.5 registered Republicans. But 2.5 million,
right,
that's a big number, as big as the Democratic side of it, are independents. They're swing voters. And
talking about those independents, is there an idea that Mikey Sherrill is depending on the idea, here's Trump out there, Trump is infecting everything, he's going to affect your life dramatically in a negative way, while Ciattarelli is depending on the idea, this election's not really about Donald Trump, it's about local issues. It's about what's happening with your electricity bill. It's what's happening with the economy. It's what's happening with property taxes. Is that the tack these two candidates are taking?
Well, they are, but you're raising something different, which is what's going to be the factor of Trump on both of these candidacies. And, you're looking at a gamble. Usually there's two mileposts in a campaign, any campaign, everywhere in the country. There's Labor Day, where you've got to get off basically running. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression usually in politics at Labor Day. And then there's Columbus Day, right? So you can't measure the Trump effect yet until somewhere between Labor Day and Columbus Day, which is usually 2 or 3 weeks before the election day here. And if the stock market is really up, something happens with Ukraine, something happens in Israel and the Mideast, that type of thing, and you see a Trump that's really good, and that's possible. Chitterelli, the Republican, is going to be in a better place, and Mikey Sherrill might find herself stranded a little bit by taking on that negative issues too early on here. So that and
yeah,
plus,
it's
it's the independent vote. I keep coming back to this, right? This is the swing vote. This is the moody vote. And this is the late vote a lot of times.
And how does it usually break in terms of independence, Jim?
Well, they're Democratic leaning over the elections, but you're talking at Democratic fatigue, I think, in New Jersey. There's a lot of wokeness that's fair or unfair given to the incumbent governor, Phil Murphy, who almost lost to Jack Chitterelli 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Is this election a referendum on Governor Murphy, do you think?
Yes, I think it is a referendum on Governor Murphy, but more it's a referendum on where are we going? What are the ideas that you have? Mark, you mentioned before, all of these local issues. They're all combining here to sort of, the numbers, the Republicans have to work uphill on this, on the numbers because of the de-leaning in New Jersey. But listen, I can tell you one thing with 100% certainty, that there will be a woman governor in Virginia elected. Because the Republicans and the Democrats are women candidates.
Wow, bold,
Wonderful.
Bold prediction, Jim McSweeney, very bold. But back to New Jersey for a minute, because you're there and we were talking about the economy, with Joe Biden, there was a feeling that inflation was going up and that it was getting untenable for people at the grocery store. Now with Trump, there's a feeling that the tariffs are injecting all sorts of uncertainty for small businesses. So do you have a sense of how people today are feeling about the economy there?
Oh, no question about it. I referred before to that poll that Eagleton did, the same one that did the one that 9 points ahead for Mikey. That's a really bad poll for Democrats and somebody looking to continue an incumbency of Democratic rule in the state because they're not happy. And this is what the polls were showing even when Harris was running against Trump. So you see the same kind of restiveness, if you want to call it, in this independent swing vote in particular.
And so much money being poured into this race already, right?
Yeah, and the tariff thing in New Jersey, and maybe that's the same for a lot of states right now, is still a little more theoretical on that type of thing. And if the tariffs work or don't work, or it's in the middle ground and the stock market still comes up, your 401k doesn't go down, you might find Trump running. And as I said before, on those peace issues overseas, he might look brilliant in November come the vote. And that's where this election, I think, is really going to turn on. Aside from the momentum, I would say, against the Democrat right now for historical voting patterns.
Right. Do you think the restiveness in the voting population in New Jersey is a reflection of what's happening all across the nation?
I do, by and large. It's just tough because a lot of the polls say inflation is low, but the empirical experience of people going out to supermarkets, the funny thing is I just went to McDonald's and I never go to McDonald's, right? And I got, I think, a Big Mac and fries, nothing to drink, not trying to have sugar drinks, right? And it was like I gave a $10 bill expecting a lot of change, and I got like $1. No, I got change back, not even $1. I thought, what the, and I'm sorry to wake up to America that's really hurting with inflation, but especially with food, wow. On the other side, I got gas yesterday. It was in New Jersey, $2.89 a gallon at the gas station. That's really low.
And they pump it for you. So it's a
Well, that's a great
win-win
thing.
in
That's
New
right.
Jersey.
Absolutely, that's where we win. It's the only state left that they have to pump your gas. You can't pump it yourself. And I live on the New York State border, by the way, right? People
Right.
come in with New York license plates, and they go right to the pump all the time, and the attendants have to go, "Get your hands off the pump!"
Back in the
It's
car.
a law.
And,
It's a
and they're in New
law.
Jersey.
Please
and
go
they're in New
away.
Jersey, so they put their hands up. They think they're being robbed.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, Jim McQueenie. Hope you enjoyed that Big Mac. It's been a while since I've had one, but we want to talk in terms of fast food. What about chicken tenders? We're going to explain because it was the cause, apparently, of a huge melee that broke out on a Carnival cruise ship between fuming passengers. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe they ran out of the chicken tenders and somebody got the last one, but this is what happened.
Dear.
Those must be some good chicken tenders. That's
They
all I
must
can
be.
say to cause this kind of outcome.
This was aboard the Sunshine, and it was around 2 in the morning on Monday. That was the last day of the trip as it was heading back to Miami. So I guess the passengers were very hungry and very restless. Don't touch my tenders.
Yeah. Never mind my disco fries. Don't touch it.
Yeah. I mean, if it's 2 in the morning and I've been promised chicken tenders, I want my chicken tenders. You know?
Exactly.
So I
We've been
understand.
promised pancakes. We heard the bell go off for the eggs. What's happening?
Okay.
Here, Rich and Allison?
So I have some choices for you guys before I start mixing up the pancakes. Do you
This
want
is actually
7?
cruel because we can't eat this.
But you can imagine it.
Yeah.
So 7 grain
Healthy.
pancake. That's one option. This is the healthy option. Then there's the buttermilk pancake. And then there's the sourdough. Interesting addition. Which one would you guys like?
All right. I try to pretend it's going to be healthy, so I'll go with the 7 grain.
Go ahead.
Sourdough every time.
Sourdough. Got it. Okay, guys. All right. Check in
In
with me
honor of
again.
Taylor Swift. Yeah. Make the sourdough. All right. If you'd like to connect with us while Allison's whipping up breakfast, or follow us or find us on social media, we're all over it. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that information on your screen right now.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Good morning once again from the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey, America. I'm Jim Rosenfield along with Mark Benamo and Allison joining us from her global home quarters.
Yes, that's exactly right. This is my
Pancake factory. Right.
yeah, I mean, this is basically my connecting kitchen. You guys are connecting America in the diner. I'm connecting America in the kitchen.
And you're doing a great job. We need to get a shot of the pancakes cooking to verify that you're actually
Okay,
doing
so
that
let me
part
just
of your
tell you
job.
something. I'm mixing up some pancakes, okay, but I did want to wait to start cooking them until we hear about Mark's latest reporting. So I can't multitask at this level,
Okay,
Jim.
fair enough, because you wear many hats and
Right.
you write for the New York Times, you cover New Jersey, and really interesting story because it kept you out late for a couple of nights, I know, because you were covering some ice raids that happened in Edison. Tell us about it.
That's right. What's happening in places like Edison are happening all across the country as ICE and federal law enforcement are stepping up their raids around the country. And what you saw in a warehouse in Edison, New Jersey, is that in a federal law enforcement raid, including personnel from ICE, approximately 29 workers were picked up, interrogated, taken off in zip ties, kind of a dramatic look to it, because of problems with their papers. And a place like Edison, New Jersey, it's full of warehouses. It's where your packages come from that go out on Amazon and eBay, Walmart. So potential problems with the supply chain could have a very dramatic effect as immigration policies go forward, particularly with President Trump stepping up these ICE raids and law enforcement raids across the country.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about, Mark, is the upshot of all of this. I mean,
Right.
as we remember, during the campaign, President Trump had promised, his administration had promised to go after the criminals, people who were committing crimes. But when it comes to people who are working to, make the rest of our infrastructure run, what's going to happen if they don't have enough workers in warehouses in Edison? I mean, what are business owners there saying?
Well, it's interesting because as much as a reflection of the diversity in New Jersey, the people who were picked up at these raids were Latino. Edison is well known as being a focal point for the South Asian community in New Jersey. Tens of thousands of Indians live in New Jersey, and I spoke to several Indian immigrants. And while one of them was saying, hey, listen, I came here on a student visa, I feel sympathetic for these people who've been picked up, but at the same time, people need to come here legally. They need to have their paperwork in order, but at the same time, they need to know what they're getting into. They need to know what the laws are so they won't come to grief when they come to America. But at the same time, I was talking to somebody in a bakery from behind the counter. He's working and he says, look on our door. We've got a we're hiring sign. We want to hire people. Now with what's happening with Trump, we're far less likely to hire anybody who don't have their papers in order. But at the same time, if they come up and they're willing to work, we need people to work. And people are going to wind up hiring them anyway.
As far as the business owners of the warehouse where this raid took place, did you get a chance to talk to them about, I mean, they just had to step back and let ICE come in and do what they were doing and just watch this happen before their eyes? I mean,
absolutely.
How did they feel about that?
They were incredibly shocked.
Yeah.
ICE comes in about approximately 24 law enforcement come in. They put everybody off into the corner. They start taking people one by one into the break room to interrogate them as to what's going on.
And I understand if you were okay, if you were here legally, you got a different color, you got a yellow wristband.
You get a yellow wristband if you're all right. If not, you're in zip ties and you're out of there. You have to think about what this does to their workday.
Yeah.
They're offloading these pallets. These trucks are coming in, and all of a sudden they're down 30 people. How are they going to get the job done? By the time I got there, the manager was saying, listen, we still need people to come, and we're calling temp agencies all over the place to try to fill the gap, but we're hurting. They were hurting into the next day. I went as a follow-up story the next day. They're still down. The trucks are backed up. I talked to a truck driver who'd been waiting for 5 hours to get what he needed to his trucks to bring goods to consumers all across the nation.
Wow, it sounds very dramatic, Mark. It's great to have your reporting and that you were there on the ground while that's happening. We've heard of some places where people get a heads up. There are some times where, there's actual like websites devoted to alerting people where they see ice agents, but it sounds like with this one, everybody was shocked.
No, in this case, no such luck. There were people, trying to run. Supposedly, some people hiding in the rafters, hoping they could get away. The ICE agents were even looking into the trucks to see if they were hiding under some packages to try to escape. There was no warning, and apparently, they weren't even told when asked. The agents who were present didn't even state their purpose. Just they said, "We have the right to be here, and we're going to take you out if your papers aren't in order."
All right. Well, they're keeping you busy.
Absolutely.
With these kinds of stories here in New Jersey. We're glad you're out there covering them. We're also, of course, covering the after effects of Hurricane Erin up and down the eastern seaboard. It has caused some dangerous conditions along the coastline. We want to go back to our meteorologist and hurricane expert, Andy Hazelton, who is tracking Erin's path as it moves out to sea. Andy.
Morning. Yeah, Erin is finally kind of making its move out to sea off the east coast of the U.S. today after making its closest approach yesterday off the eastern seaboard of North Carolina, a little bit further north today. We still got some dangerous winds and surf along the coast. I was looking at some of the buoys and 35, 40 mile per hour winds out near Nantucket and along some of the beaches in Massachusetts. So still not a good day to be on the water out there. Still some dangerous rip currents, but I think as we move into the weekend, the weather will get a lot nicer, and hopefully also by the end of the weekend, early next week, that things should get back to normal at the beaches too.
Andy, I was just showing the guys here that here in Connecticut, coastal Connecticut, it's a beautiful day after 2 days of really rain and dreariness. So is there any place along the coast that's still experiencing the aftermath of Erin?
I think kind of a little further east, some of the, like I said, at Nantucket, some of the farther east extremities, you're still getting some of the waves, but also on the backside of these storms as they recurve up to the northeast, you get a lot of dry air and coming down, and that actually leads to clear conditions and better weather. So we'll be seeing more and more of that today as Erin pulls off at the northeast, and hopefully should be a pretty nice day for most of the area.
And anything you're watching that's brewing at this point?
It looks like we have another wave that's moving up to the north, but it'll be near or east of Bermuda, so no real threat to the United States. And we're getting close to peak season. There's a couple waves here and there, but nothing imminent. So we're just going to kind of keep watching and waiting and being ready, but hoping for the best.
All right. In this case, quiet is good. Quiet is okay.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right, Andy. Thanks so much. Yeah, and as we watch the aftermath of this storm, homes, dealing with water, this week has us thinking that homeowners, whether they regret buying their homes along the shorefront, want to ask you our question of the day. Where is your dream home? Is it an oceanfront home right there with that great view of the water? Is it in the mountains? It's kind of split there. 41% for oceanfront homes. That's your dream home. 42% want to be in the mountains, and fewer want to be in the countryside. And it looks like nobody wants to be in the city, Mark.
I find that hard to believe. That's so funny because I know people who are excited about, once they're empty nesters moving back to the city. And, I'm not one of these people. I really like ocean. But I hear people who want to move to the city. So I'm amused that there's zero. But Jim, your mountain dream, aspirational dream is pulling ahead.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice, Allison, just, sort of go on hikes and in the wintertime be able to ski, just go out your door and ski in, ski out would be nice. I mean, as I'm listing my dreams.
Yeah, but harder to work on your tan. We're in the mountains. Too much trees, too much shade. Get me to the beach.
Spoken like a true Jersey. Well, Staten Island originally, but true Jersey guy. So is that your dream oceanfront there, Mark?
I've got to admit, the ocean just draws me in. I feel a moment of zen when I'm looking out into the ocean.
There's something about the waves crashing.
Calming of the waves. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think sooner or later, down the shore where everything's all right, as Springsteen said, you got to go.
Oh, I heard it. I heard the Springsteen reference. I get it. I totally agree. I mean, as a Jersey Shore girl, I just have such an affinity for the beach and I love the beach. And I'm sad that the beach has experienced so much erosion and that there's so many beaches that have changed. I mean, so markedly from when I've grown up, but I would still do oceanfront or waterfront, but I do take to heed what our real estate expert said is that you're going to pay
At the same
much
time, I
more.
must mention that as much as Springsteen made that song famous, that's a Tom Waits composition. So talking to you people in LA and the West Coast, yeah, Jersey Girl has its roots there too. But arguable, I think we both know maybe who did it the best.
Yes, thank you for that. But I also want to point out that Springsteen does still have a house, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong, on the Jersey Shore in New Jersey. But I think he has some other houses too. So even
Yeah,
he
could be.
has spread out, so has cast a wider net now.
Pretty good bet. He's got a few other houses. I was curious, growing up in Staten Island, tell us something that we may not know about that borough.
Well, things that people need to know about Staten Island. In some ways, it's gotten a bad rap for many years. The world's largest garbage went there, but it now closed.
Yeah,
you can
it's
go
closed.
kayaking in the park, and there are 3 things that we can be proud of Staten Island that we have nowhere else.
What's that?
The ferry boat with the most beautiful views of New York Harbor, absolutely free, right? Of course, the famed rap collective culturally of the Wu-Tang Clan from Staten Island,
I love
globally famous. Also, and I
the
will
third?
say this on national television, the best pizza in America, and I would say on planet Earth. Sorry, Jersey.
You have your
Sorry.
go-to spot for that, or
Well, Danino's and Joe and Pat's. Also, arguably Lee's Tavern. Excellent. I would recommend it.
You know what, Mark?
Anytime.
Prove it. Prove it. Put your money where your mouth is and bring some pizza into the diner, and we will be the judge of that. Okay. We
I
will
would
have
be happy to do so. I
Good.
stand on Staten Island pizza at any time.
We will have a blind taste test. We'll blindfold Jim
Okay.
and me.
Oh, I'm
And and we'll taste that. Also, about the ferry, are you referring to Pete Davidson's ferry that he famously bought with Colin
Colin
Jost?
Jost. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, of course, Pete Davidson and Colin Jost, both native Staten Islanders, bought this great old boat, the John F. Kennedy classic ferry boat. What a good idea, right? Maybe not so much. It's now sitting there rotting. Well, the logistics of actually turning a ferry boat into a club turns out to be a lot more complicated. So that boat is now basically rotting at a dry dock on Staten Island while they figure out what to do. Might have been off more than they could chew.
I did not know that. Thank you for the update. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a good life lesson for all of us. Don't rush into a ferry purchase. Okay, good.
Correct.
Hey, Allison, we got some serious news that we've been watching. Maybe you heard about this or not. Overnight, the parole board out in California says Eric Menendez cannot get out of prison for the 1989 murder of his parents. He's 54 now. His brother Lyle is 57. They, of course, convicted for the gruesome murder of their mom and dad. Both of them hoping the time has come for them to go free. But the board ruled that Eric Menendez, is going to stay in prison in San Diego. They said he's not really been a model prisoner. He had some contraband, including an unauthorized cell phone behind bars. So that hearing took about 10 hours before they came up with that decision. Then Lyle is up next. He's going to hear today what his fate holds.
I got to say, I'm surprised by this because it seemed that the momentum was on the side of the brothers, given that there was this revisiting of the original motivation for their crime, or the alleged motivation that didn't come out in their original trial. And it seemed to be corroborated that their father was horribly abusive. So there seemed to be some evidence of that was presented later, decades later, just recently. And so I thought that they stood a chance this time of getting out, their best chance. So I'm surprised by this outcome.
Right. And it's arguable, too, that in an atmosphere where that type of abuse is taken far more seriously decades later, where it might not have been brought into consideration years ago, that the way society has moved, things were moving in a direction that would help the Menendezes achieve their legal goals.
Yeah, it seemed like the parole board was focusing really on his current behavior and how has he been behaving behind bars. And he talked about, his work to rehabilitate prisoners, but they were not duly impressed enough to say it's time for him to regain his freedom. So we'll continue to see what happens with his brother today.
Right. And after the break, we'll find out what's happening at the diner with our favorite server, Trish. We'll be right back.
even here on her day off.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Sunrise Diner here in Rose Oak Park, New Jersey. I'm Jim Rosenfield. Allison joining us from her home kitchen where she's been hard at work this morning. And one of the things we love, Allison, is our chance to talk to the diners who are here every morning for breakfast, and also the hardworking servers who are here with us every day, including Trish. You know, she's become a fixture here on Connecting America. And guess what?
She's our
Allison?
co-anchor. I mean, she's just one of the most fascinating people we've ever talked to. So what's on their
And
minds
even
today?
on her day off, Allison, she's here. But today, on the other side of things, she's in a booth with a friend, and Mark is there talking with him. Mark?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, part of what we're trying to do here on Connecting America is have that type of national conversation. Get people talking to each other. And it's important that we come talk to people like Trish. And today we're here with Bradley. Bradley, how you doing?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Can't complain. So you're a filmmaker?
Yes, that's correct. I'm a filmmaker. My full name is Bradley Cranzo, and I've done a couple of low-budget horror films. The Bible Belt Slasher. Did an action film also called Vicious Thunder. You can find that online.
Right.
So, a lot of like low-budget stuff, music videos too. I actually had a group called Midnight Flashback. Did some songs a couple of years back, and I also do instrumental music as well under my own name.
It's funny. You talk about slasher films. Some of the famous scenes in one of the greatest slasher films of all time, Friday the 13th, was filmed here in New Jersey, filmed in a diner in Blairstown. What is it about a diner that can be like a very cinematic locale and good for a filmmaker?
I think it's just the fact that you got such a natural environment, comfortable. Also, a lot of possibilities when you think about, the surroundings and the people that are in it. Um, it's just hard to put into words, really, to be honest. But it
Right.
just feels right.
So, Trish, when you go and watch a movie, what are the things that most draw you in? What kind of themes? What kind of ideas? What kind of visuals?
Well, I like psychological horror that no one sees coming, that really terrifies you. And, Gore's all right too. And you can watch me die in Brad's films on YouTube. 20 years ago, I looked a little better.
Wait. So you're like the scream queen in all these movies?
I did do some screaming.
She did. I can attest to that. She laid in my bathtub when she got her, what was it? Not throat slit. She got choked to death.
Right.
And then the guy drowned her in the tub and she was laying there in a blood-filled tub.
Tepid water for 3 hours, and you hadn't cleaned your bathtub.
It was a little dirty.
So we're here at the diner and I can see, ketchup on the table, and there's something always got to wonder. What do you use for fake blood?
It's a mix of Caro syrup. There's clear Caro syrup, and then there's the one that looks kind of purplish,
Right.
and then a little bit of red food dye. Sometimes you can mix a little bit of green food dye in if you want to get a darker color. But, it's mostly Caro syrup with food dye for the most part.
Now, real blood is supposedly hard to get off. Is fake blood the same way?
Oh, yeah.
It is a little difficult to get off if you use too much of the red food dye because it just soaks into the skin. One time, a friend of mine used something that was tomato based, and the tomato just stained into the skin also. So it was kind of like tricky. You know?
Trish, you live here in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Now, as you're looking around New Jersey, there are location scouts who their whole job is to go around places like New Jersey, around the nation, to try to find a place that's going to be particularly appealing to the eye. What do you think is most important when people are looking for a visual in terms of what they want to see on film? What draws people in terms of visually with their eye?
Classic architecture, not this modern garbage that we're having built everywhere. It's not anything to look at. You want detail. You want to see craftsmanship that adds to a storyline. It gives real subtext.
Right. Now, in terms of working with people, right? You're there. You're the director. You're behind the camera. How do you draw the best performances out of actors?
It's just a matter of sitting down with them and going over everything multiple times, rehearsing. I can't stress how much how important it is to rehearse something because you have a lot of people that they don't even write scripts on some of these low budget films. They get to the set, they say, okay, you're going to be doing this and that, and improving is great, but you just need to rehearse and go through the scene as many times as you can. That's the only way you're going to get a good performance out of people. And you can even do what's called like a memory recall for some people who are having trouble crying. Recall the saddest moment in your life that you had, run that in your head when you're doing that particular moment in that scene. So I try to work between memory recall and just a lot of rehearsal to get everything right. The one film I did, Vicious Thunder, we had to do a lot of rehearsal with that because I was working with blank firing firearms. So there was a lot of gunplay in it, and we had a lot of people that were not comfortable, using the weapons. But once they start firing it, you show them how to use it. They relax. They get a lot more comfortable with that because we filmed that over in Linden, New Jersey. I actually took over the whole courthouse where I worked. So that was a big production. I took the courthouse over for a few months. Wow. We were shooting that.
Well, all the world's a stage.
Yep,
all right.
Definitely is.
So, Bradley?
Bradley, yes. And then next year, I'm hoping to do another feature. I've been out of it for a couple of years, but I'm hoping to get back into it.
All right. Wish you the best of luck. And Trish, maybe we'll see you not just in the diner, but on screen again.
He said I could play a killer this time. I usually die.
And you can also find me on Facebook if you want at Bradley Cranzo. And I'm also on YouTube and SoundCloud as well, also under Bradley Cranzo.
Great. We'll be looking for it. Thank you very much, guys. All right. Going back to talking to Jim now about issues around the nation. Coming back to
I love that we got the recipe for fake blood with the Caro syrup.
Me too. I mean, Jim, how is it possible that we learn so much in these moments where we interact with the diners? I've never known how they make fake blood. And by the way, hats off to Mark there for asking what the formula for fake blood is. It shows how warped a mind he has, if that was one of his first questions.
He sees ketchup and he thinks blood. And Trish, so versatile, not only a great waitress here, but also a great actress in those locally produced films. We love that. Trish always surprises us with something
A woman
new
of
about
many
her.
hats. Yes, she has many, many talents. And you're saying local films, Jim, as though you don't want to publicize Bible Belt Slasher and Vicious Thunder, which are also awesome I think maybe New Jersey amusement park rides. I feel like I've maybe been on Vicious Thunder at some point.
Yeah, probably. I couldn't hear some of the names that were tossed around.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
thank you for.
And you survived.
Yeah,
You know.
you survived.
Mhm.
Exactly.
No, that was
You know what?
amazing.
We love the Sunrise Diner here, but we also like to check out our national diner of the day, Allison. So we're going to take you to a chrome-plated time capsule sort of thing when you arrive at the Five and Diner in Phoenix, Arizona. This has been around since 1989. Got your neon lights, checkerboard floors, jukeboxes. I love that. You sit at the table and pick your favorite song. It's also about the comfort food, of course, that you expect from a classic diner. And it's great for all-day breakfasts and late-night meals. I love breakfast for dinner. I don't know about you, Allison.
Yeah, breakfast for dinner is great. And I heard you guys during a commercial break ordering breakfast there.
Oh, you did?
What?
It just
Yes, I
arrived.
did. I see
It
that.
just arrived.
Tell us what you're having.
We're going with the scrambled today.
It's all about the protein. It's all about
Yeah.
the scrambled eggs.
It's really
Right
good
there.
there.
Thank you so much.
Delicious.
Appreciate it.
Really good. Yeah.
Right.
And
And
I
so,
got the well-done turkey bacon.
of course you did. I know that
Yeah.
that's a favorite. And Mark, did you get your home fries?
No, too many home fries make me sleepy. Not the answer. But I got some
Yeah.
classic diner white toast that I can slather with the ever healthy grape jelly.
Ever healthy. Absolutely.
No, you do. I'm glad, Mark, that you realize you do have to pace yourself on a morning show. You can't just carbo load in the middle. You have to figure
No.
out where you're hitting your protein,
No,
where you're hitting your fruit, all
I'm not
that
George
stuff.
Costanza. I'm not going to be taking a nap on the job. Can't have it.
Hey, Allison, question for you. Are
Yeah.
you using AI a lot to answer, some issues or questions that you might have? You want to learn about something?
Jim, you've poked a bear right
Yeah.
now because I have such a conflicted relationship with AI. I've
Mm.
really been resisting it because part of me does think it's the apocalypse. And yet I have so many friends who are like, why aren't you using AI for this? Why don't you just ask AI? Why don't you plan your next trip with AI? Why don't you ask AI where you should go to dinner? Like some people have really incorporated it into their daily lives. And so I do feel like I'm a little bit behind on the curve on this one.
How about using it to decide on financial issues? That's what we're going to talk about. Bring home the bacon today. This is kind of a controversial idea to manage your money. Would you ask ChatGPT or other AI programs for financial advice? There's a realtor. Her name is Jennifer Allen. She told USA Today she did this, and she claims it actually worked pretty well for her. Reduced her debt from $23,000 to $5,000. She built up a lot of credit card debt, and she asked ChatGPT, "What's my best way to get out from under this?" Well, that's what she did. She followed its advice.
I think that's really interesting, and I'm glad that it was helpful. I think that it can still be dicey, as we know. AI often can also give people the wrong information.
Wrong
Chat
information.
GPT and stuff. It's not fact checked yet. It hasn't gotten to that level. So I would be wary of asking it for financial advice. But it sounds like it helped her kind of get organized and how to think of it. This is nuanced. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a mix. You could ask AI maybe to brush up on your financial literacy and start learning, but then maybe rely on a financial planner, an actual human, if you have fundamental questions about what to do with your money.
I mean, of course, humans are flawed also, I'd like to point out. So just because you go to a human, particularly with financial planning, it doesn't mean that what they say is foolproof. So I'm trying to just figure out which one is more foolproof. Which one is it? Is it the AI that's crunching all of the information across the internet and spitting out an answer, or is it a flawed human? Mark, any thoughts?
I just look at what's happening with AI as something that is becoming pervasive in our society, and in some ways, alarmingly so.
Yeah.
Who wants to think that journalists, lawyers, all sorts of other professions, are we going to be replaced by machines? It's something out of a science fiction movie.
Yeah, there's certain aspects of it that are, they're time savers. I know, talking to my kids, they'll use AI for things like cover letters, if they need to quickly come up with some correspondence and they
Sure.
just need to churn it out really quickly. I mean, it can be a guidepost also. You don't have to use exactly what it tells you to say. but it can be a helpful guidepost in some instances.
Right.
Yeah, and you shouldn't use exactly what it says
Yeah.
at this point. I mean, certainly with the college kids writing papers and everything. But yeah,
No.
this is the brave new world that we're all exploring. All right,
Right.
guys, eat up. What's coming up?
We're going to talk about logo change coming up, Allison, and how it is impacting a big company's stock. You might be surprised to hear what's happening. Talking about Cracker Barrel when we come back.
New Brunswick.
Welcome back to Connecting America. We've got our favorite waitress of the day here, Isabella, server extraordinaire. Thanks for joining us. You're also a student at Rutgers. You're very busy.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's all a fun balance, so it's all right.
Right.
All right. This next story, you're here working in a restaurant, so maybe this you'll relate to this. It may fall under the category, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because Cracker Barrel, have you seen this, Allison?
Yeah.
This is the new logo on the right. And,
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I don't know why everybody is so against this. I know, Jim, that the stock market crashed. I mean, not stock market,
Yeah.
the stock price of
Yeah.
this. They lost some phenomenal amount. Let me see. It was like millions in their, value just because of this change. I think it does look cleaner. I know the other one on the left-hand side of the screen is the traditional one. I get it. But I think that if they're trying to appeal to a younger crowd, the one on the right is the way to go. What are your thoughts, or what are people saying about it?
I mean, I I like Uncle Herschel there. leaning on the barrel. I mean, if you've been in a Cracker Barrel,
Right.
there's a lot of character, and I mean, he represents that character. I think.
But as you're talking about characters, who is Uncle Herschel? What is his purpose?
What's his
Why is he
backstory?
there?
What do we know
I
about
think,
him?
I think the company said it sort of like represents, a place where you go just to have conversation, like we do here at Connecting America, here at the Sunrise Diner, and just kind of relax, chill, talk about whatever's on your mind.
Yeah, but what's Uncle Herschel's backstory? So, in other words, I'm trying to figure out why they made this change. Did they feel that it was just antiquated now? Is there some racial component to this? Are they just trying to attract a younger demo? I'd like to hear what the marketing. I'd like to have been around the conference room table when they decided to do this.
Yeah, and I think now they're just kind of,
Right.
they've all got headaches. What did we do?
Right.
Because there's so much controversy about the change.
Isabella, you are the younger demo,
Yeah.
right?
I
You
guess
see
so.
Uncle Herschel.
Yeah.
What do you think? Does he belong there, or is she to go bye-bye?
I don't know. I kind of like the old one. It's just what
Really?
I'm used to, and I feel like the new one's a little too simple. It gives it a
Huh.
little bit of character. So I don't know.
I mean, I think fundamentally this deals with, a drop off in patrons coming into Cracker Barrels, and they needed to sort of spice things up and reinvigorate the brand. Whether they did the right thing or not, there's also discussion, of redesigning the insides of Cracker Barrels, make them a little bit brighter. If you've been in them, Allison, you've been in Cracker Barrel?
I have, but only on road trips. So in other words,
Yeah,
they're not
same.
like a destination for me, but when I'm driving, for a long road trip, I've been in them and I can't really remember what their interior looks like. I mean, kind of homey, right?
Yeah, wood paneling. I feel like, especially in the entrance, lots of merchandise, lots of merch when you walk in, including really good candy, that kind of stuff, like throwback kind of merch.
That
But
sounds good. I hope they're not changing that.
I hope not
Right.
too. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see whether they stick with this logo. There have been other examples in the past where, these marketing geniuses decide it's time for a rebrand,
Right.
and it's been a fiasco, and they go back to the original.
Right. Old Coke, new Coke.
Yeah.
New Coke was a disaster. Maybe, Uncle Herschel needs to be like Old Coke and make a comeback.
Yeah, and we remember that wasn't there the scandal around Budweiser recently.
Yes.
Yeah, but I like what Isabella was saying, that old Herschel does give it character. So maybe they need
Mhm.
to find something that infuses more character.
Are you a runner, Allison, at all?
Not at all. Not
at
at
all.
all. I avoid all movement, really, if I
Isabella,
can help it.
are you a runner?
Yeah.
Yes?
I do like running. I mean, I'm not
Die Hard.
yeah. I mean, my mom is. She does marathons and stuff.
Okay, well, so we have a story about the health impact, perhaps, on people who are fit and doing their best to remain fit. Researchers at Innovashar Cancer Institute in Virginia, they studied 100 ultramarathon athletes between the ages of 35 to 50. Those marathoners are the ones who are really diehard. They can run 50 to 100 miles or more.
Wow.
But this is the important thing. The study showed 1 in 8 had adenomas. Those are benign tumors that could become cancerous. They're the ones you really want to watch. But it's 8 times higher than people who don't run. So, Allison, good news for you.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've long believed the less exercise you get, the longer your body stays preserved. But with this one, but with this, it's so counterintuitive, guys.
It
I
is.
don't understand. I mean, it flies in the face of everything we've been taught. You exercise, you eat right, you stay as thin as possible. I mean, this is the conventional wisdom. So I don't understand this cancer connection. We need to know a lot more about this.
Right. And this is just an initial study. They're going to be doing more research, but it's a little bit of perhaps a red flag. Maybe it has to do with the stress it puts on your body to run that much, up to 100 miles. I mean, that's a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there must be something like that. It's overtaxing the body, but I also thought that they do recommend, that kind of intense sprinting and stuff like that. That is supposed to be super healthful. It's confusing. I mean, I know I'm joking. I'm not really joking, by the way, about my exercise philosophy. I've always thought that people who run all the time, they have knee problems, they have back problems. They're not feeling any better
Right.
than I am, who's never run.
Right.
I'm
Isabella, do you
starting
think
feel
Do you
smart
think
about this.
that should be a more intense experience or something a little more lower paced?
I feel like you have to like switch it up sometimes because I feel like the more that you do just all high intensity, you're putting way too much stress on your body. So you have to make sure you balance it with like rest days. So like a longer run versus a high intensity one is good to just even it out. At least that's what like me and my mom do, and we've been fine. So I think that's more so the route that you should go instead
Yeah,
of
I
just
love mixing it up.
yeah.
Not doing the same thing and not too intense. I'm with Allison.
100 miles
You
is a
know,
lot.
preserve the knees, the back. I find that that's the better approach. And you're studying at Rutgers. Is it neuroscience?
Yeah,
right.
neuroscience and criminal justice. Yeah.
And what do you want to do with that, Isabella?
I think I want to do maybe forensic psychology or maybe like something behavioral analysis, something that combines the two. So if I were to go like the criminal justice route, I would use the neuroscience to kind of learn more about why people do certain things.
Right.
Just because I find it interesting, I always have. So.
Right.
We admire your ability to juggle all your juggling, going to school, working
Thank
here at
you.
the Sunrise Diner. We really appreciate you joining us here.
Thank you.
On Camera for America. And I mean, this is one of our hard workers here in New Jersey. We love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
All right. Coming up after the break, speaking of fitness, our fitness guru, Gwen Lawrence, is going to get us up and moving, Allison. So hide the bacon before she sees it, guys. We'll be right back. Just finishing up our eggs, our scrambled eggs here at the Sunrise Diner in Rose Oak Park, New Jersey. Good morning once again. I'm Jim Rosenfield, along with Mark Namo. And Allison, you are in your home kitchen.
I am. So I haven't had time to whip up the pancakes yet, but I will soon, hopefully in the next few minutes. How are the eggs?
Excellent.
Delicious. Do you do ketchup on your eggs or not?
No. Nope. No.
Well, Mark was doing this with the ketchup, the fake blood on the eggs.
Dousing.
Interesting, Mark. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, we were talking about exercise before we took a break, and I said I don't run. I don't even really believe that it's necessarily good for you, but I do like yoga. I do like slower types of exercise, more stretching, mobility stuff. So I wouldn't mind some tips on that.
You know what? We have just the person with us here on Connecting America. Gwen Lawrence is here. She trains New York's top professional athletes with what we understand is a pretty killer yoga practice. Gwen, thanks for being here this morning. Is it true that you train like
me? And I already saw the bacon.
You already what? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Right.
I already saw your bacon.
Forgive us, please.
Busted. You're so busted.
It's turkey bacon. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, all right.
No.
It sounds like she thinks you're cheating. All bacon is a no-go. So Gwen, tell us what we can do. I mean, just at home, for mobility, and what are some good exercises?
So we're going in and out a little bit, but I think this is a really good way for you to meet me, Allison, because
all right.
Yeah.
Gwen was not advocating just freezing in place. That's we apologize for the signal problems.
I was hoping we could just freeze in place, but no. And she said that it would be a good intro for me to meet her. I do like that idea. I really do want to meet her. So hopefully we can get Gwen's signal back.
Yeah, and I understand she trains professional athletes like from the Yankees and the Giants in yoga. So it's not just.
I mean, I feel like I'd present a particular challenge to her.
Really? It's that bad?
So? Yeah. I feel like, a professional athlete, great. But what about somebody who's kind of a slug? That's what I want her. That's what I want her advice on.
Do we have Gwen back? Did I understand? Okay. We're still working on it. We're going to work out the kinks there. Did you hear about this, Allison? Helen Mirren, the actress, talking about the next James Bond, saying, no way can it be a woman. She says, I'm a feminist, but James Bond has to be a guy. You can't have a woman. Otherwise, it becomes something else.
Well, why don't you guys tell me your opinion, and then I can destroy you.
Okay, I'll bite. Now, it's interesting. As much as James Bond over the years, of course, Sean Connery, the original 007, the
Roger
paragon
Moore.
for this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Timothy Dalton, Daniel Craig recently.
He's retiring from the role.
Right. Now, that's traditionally been a white male, but there have been other alternatives suggested that aren't necessarily what people think of the norm for James Bond. There's Idris Elba, who has African roots. Many people have said he'd be a great Bond. Some have even advocated Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Now, Cillian Murphy, wait a minute, he's Irish, not English. Well, look, I'd argue that the Irish are having a cultural moment. Kneecap, the Irish rap group, just won a major British Film Award. Why not an Irishman?
Yeah, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, but I feel like that's good, Mark. But I feel like you're really avoiding the point. I feel like you're dancing around the point. Do you think it can be a woman?
It's
an
interesting proposition, right? But at the same thing, it's going to be very hard for people who have watched James Bond for years to not get out the image of a man in a tuxedo acting in that role.
Allison, you don't agree with Helen Mirren, who said, look, there are plenty of vehicles for great roles for women who portray spies. It's just not.
Are there, Helen?
Well, she's actually, I think she's actually on a project just along those lines right now.
Okay, well,
I just feels there are other ways to portray women as spies, other than
I mean, obviously, there's Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I think it was called.
Right.
We have seen examples of super badass women, but I guess my point, I think that it can be a woman, but it would have to be obviously like Jamie Bond. You know, I don't want her to be called James Bond, but it would be like Janice or Jamie Bond. And the reason that I think it can be a woman is because the qualities are suave, sexy, like hyper capable. And I don't know why you would put that into why a woman couldn't also fit that role. Imagine Halle Berry, suave, sexy, super capable. I think that's a winning movie as a spy.
I like that idea. We also, by the way, we saw Cynthia Erivo as Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar a couple of weeks ago at the Hollywood Bowl, and she was phenomenal.
She can sing. That woman can sing and act. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get back to exercise, because we're not giving you any excuses, Allison. We are going to
see that.
We are going to get you into yoga when. Well,
now you are giving me an excuse. There was a minute there where I was going to do some exercise and it went away. But yeah, we're still trying to get Gwen's satellite up. But what do you think about my argument? Don't you think that like Halle Berry or fill in the blank could be a super successful, sultry spy?
I think it would create huge buzz, and that alone might, be the path to a box office hit, depending on who you cast in the role.
Right.
So I'll give you that. And there's certainly, those are great names and great talents, and they could pull it off. But they're the traditionalists who feel like, as you said, you need to see him in his suit. And obviously you disagree, Allison.
A woman can wear a suit, Mark. Mark, have I won you over yet with my argument?
I feel like a true Jersey girl, you've backed me into a corner very well. Other than that, I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Okay, well done. I think that's very wise. Well done. We should also make this a question of the day. I really do want to know what the viewers think about that, because James Bond, it is a traditional image. We can all conjure this, very suave man in a tuxedo, but would people be open to it being updated? So this is our other question of the day, the aspirational. Where do you want your dream home? I say oceanfront. Mark says oceanfront, I believe. Jim says mountains. Okay, 6% now up to in the city. So that's a new development this hour.
All right.
Right.
We love also checking in on other diners across America, Allison. We're here in New Jersey, but our Hannah Davis, she's all over the place. She could visit a diner near you. Today, she's popping by the Doodah Diner in Wichita, Kansas.
There is one of the best brunch spots in the entire country. It's been ranked by many publications, and it's right in downtown Wichita. Let's go check it out. Okay, this is day 3. I had to check with my producer, day 3 of our mid-road trip. We have gone from Tulsa now to Kansas. We're in Wichita, and we're heading into one of the best breakfast spots in the entire country. It's called Doodah Diner, and we're gonna eat really good food, and we're gonna ask people one simple question. If you were in charge of the good old US of A, what's the one change you would make if you were in charge for a day? The one change you would make. Let's see what these folks say over some really good biscuits and gravy.
Walking in, Pork Belly Grand, super easy.
Doodah Diner has been ranked as one of the top breakfast spots in the entire country by multiple publications, and you can see why on this customer's face. Patrick Shibley, the owner, says it's all about making things from scratch, doing it the right way. He says this reflects the Midwest work ethic, and this is what he wants customers to feel.
Like they just went home. Like they feel good, they had some good food, they had some good conversation, no matter who it was with, and they just feel good leaving here.
Speaking of good conversation, we decided to ask the good people here, what's the one thing they would change to make the world better?
I think probably our discourse right now, our dialogue between the extremes of one side and another politically. I think there's just a lot of just in the middle that folks aren't realizing that we can connect on, and there just needs to be more inroads for people to make real personal connections to make sure that we know we're more similar than we are different.
Asking a social worker that question, that's really a social worker. Yeah. So that's a really tough question.
You're like, where do I start?
Oh, yeah. I would have to say, as a woman in recovery, really just breaking the stigma of addiction and mental health. and making sure people are met where they're at and get services and support.
What does breaking the stigma look like?
It means no longer judging each other, supporting each other, knowing we all have a story and that we're all just trying to get better and do the next right thing.
And what would happen in a world if there wasn't stigma related to addiction?
I feel like that more of us would probably be in recovery. We wouldn't be still stuck out there and dying from this disease.
Thank you for answering that.
Okay, now that we've talked to all the fine people here at Judah about this amazing place and what we can learn from it and how the world can be a better place, now it's time for me to enjoy the food. The perfect mid-breakfast.
From the Doodah Diner back here to the Sunrise Diner, we have a new guest with us, Sophia, who came in with her brother to have some breakfast here this morning from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
thank you so much.
So, what is your breakfast go-to? You're staring at my eggs with ketchup on it, kind of controversial. What do you like to eat?
Honestly, I like to eat chicken and waffles.
Nice.
Chicken and waffles?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome. And
What
do you
is?
put in your
Hold on.
coffee?
What is a chicken waffle? Can you just explain that
Chicken
to me?
and-
What is it?
It's and waffle, chicken and waffles.
Right.
Like a free piece of fried chicken and a waffle?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Strong move. Strong breakfast.
Sweet and savory.
Yeah.
Culinary genius.
Sticks with you all day.
Right.
Sophia, what are you up to when you're not here at the diner with your brother and breakfast? Where are you in life? Tell us about yourself.
I'm just chilling. I
Just chilling?
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah, I go to school.
Gotcha.
Did I see Manchester United on your jersey there?
Yeah.
So, soccer fan.
Right.
Yeah, I like Ronaldo. And,
Right. Not Man City, though. Not Man City, only Man United. So what do you like most about school?
Honestly, just be with friends and just socialize. Just pretty much it. You know, it's just school has me stressed.
Yeah. What grade are you, Sophia?
I'm gonna be in 10th grade this year.
Great.
So when I come back, I'm a 10th grader.
All right, we hope you have an awesome school year.
Yep.
That's going to do it for us here on Connecting America at the Sunrise Diner. Sophia and all of us, thanks for joining us. Allison, have a great weekend.
You too.
Great day.
See you.